The battle lines are drawn over the national education policy between Tamil Nadu and the central government, particularly over the three-language policy that the scheme mentions. So what exactly is this three-language rule? Let's explain why there's a fight over this. The Stalin government in Tamil Nadu seeing red over the national education policy again. They've refused to implement an NEP in the state, and this has been a controversy for the last many years. We'll tell you why the DMK is against NEP in a bit, but first, let's get down to the basics and start off by answering what exactly is the national education policy. The NEP, the National Education Policy of India 2020, was introduced by the Union Cabinet on 29th July 2020. This policy replaced the previous National Policy on Education of 1986 and has brought in reforms at all levels of education. According to the government, the NEP is based on 5 principles or guiding pillars: access, equity, quality, affordability, and accountability. Education, remember, is a state subject as per the Constitution. So the NEP has to be formally adopted by the states for it to become a reality, because it falls under the concurrent list of states plus centre approval. The first state to have implemented NEP was Karnataka in 2021, followed by Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, and several other states. But there are a handful of them who've refused also to implement NEP. Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Telangana, Bengal have refused to implement NEP. Interestingly, while Karnataka, as I mentioned earlier, was the first state to implement NEP, the change in power from a BJP to a Congress government has meant that the state now has its own state education policy to override NEP. As for Bengal, Chief Minister Mamata had clearly opposed the national education policy and had set up an expert committee in the state to look into the provisions of the policy. Post that, some aspects of the NEP have been adopted, others ignored, as Bengal too has created its own state education policy. Kerala has taken a similar step of having its own education policy that embraces some parts of the NEP and shoots down some aspects that they don't agree with. Now, the reason that a state like Tamil Nadu has opposed NEP is because of the three-language policy, essentially a formula of English plus 2 regional languages. Currently, there's a 2-language policy in effect in Tamil Nadu, English plus 1 regional language. Now, the Tamil Nadu government has claimed that the 3-language rule is an attempt to ensure people in Tamil Nadu learn Hindi, claiming that the second regional language will be Hindi and therefore claim it's a bid to impose the language.
We will get 2,000 crore allotted only if we sign NEP MOU. Even if they offer 10,000 crore, we will not sign it. Tamil Nadu will go back by 2,000 years if we sign it. I will not commit that sin.
But the Union Education Minister has refuted this, claiming that the 3-language policy allows any 2 regional languages. So it can be Telugu, Malayalam, Kannada or any other language.
He has mentioned few imaginary concerns through that letters. Rejecting a student-centric future-focused policy is really regressive. Education should not be politicized.
But the 3-language rule is nothing new. The formula was actually part of the 1968 National Policy Resolution, which provided for the study of Hindi, English, and a modern Indian language, preferably one of the southern languages in the Hindi-speaking states, and Hindi, English, and the regional language in the non-Hindi-speaking states. Interesting, right? Because it would have essentially meant that people in Tamil Nadu would study Hindi and people in states like Bihar would even learn Tamil. But the scheme was never really implemented, which is why the NEP reiterated the 3-language policy, meaning essentially that this rule was already in place and was just reiterated to ensure its proper implementation this time around. This policy was actually devised in 1968 after consulting all state chief ministers, particularly because of the exact same controversy as now, that in Tamil Nadu there were protests over language imposition. But the DMK maintains that today, with the 3-language policy, there will be an attempt to ensure that the 3rd language being taught across India is only Hindi or Sanskrit.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.